This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening. This is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. Just a reminder that coming up, Vincent Moss will be joining us in the studio at the top of the hour to go through the front pages of tomorrow's papers. Right now, though, a number of British tourists and expats in the United Arab Emirates have been imprisoned for breaching laws around national security and stability. According to Detained in Dubai, up to 70 people are facing at least 10 years in jail for taking images of missiles and strikes, but that number could be higher. Some have also reportedly been assaulted and jailed for privately sharing war photos with their families. And just to let you know how serious this is, you can even get fined for having a photograph sent to your phone that you had nothing, you passively just receive it. You can be arrested as well. The fines could be up to $500,000 and, like I said, 10 years in jail, 5 to 15 years to be accurate. Well, joining me now to discuss this further is Radha Stirling, who's the CEO of Detained in Dubai. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. What is going on here, Radha? Can you explain to me under which laws people are being arrested and just how serious these regimes are?
Yes, they're being arrested under the UAE's federal cybercrime laws, which have been a problem for many years. We've seen British nationals previously arrested for sharing charities on Facebook or for a social post or perhaps a negative review for a hotel or a rental car agency. We've seen all of that. So it's always been a problem, but we've never seen it enforced to the extent that they have been doing. It's mass arrests across multiple nationalities, and it's really vague what they're actually being charged with. When I have a look at the police database and review all of the cases, it's really difficult to argue because you don't really know what you're being charged with. So we've had people arrested for sharing a photo that they've taken and sending it just to their mum or to their relatives saying, I'm safe. There's been a young British man who arrived in Dubai, saw that the airport was damaged, took a photo, sent it to his colleagues and said, is it safe for me to walk through the airport? It was just a genuine question. And of course, there's no malice intended, and he's liaising with his colleagues, but he's being taken into custody. He's still there. We've had people who have been survivors or victims, really, of drone strikes on their own apartment buildings and then sending a picture home saying, it's okay, you know, the apartment might be damaged, but I'm all right, and then attaching a photo. And the police have come back the next day to ask to look at their phones. And when they saw the photo, they arrested them. Again, they're still in detention.
So is it the visuals that they're, or would they also have been arrested for saying my apartment block has been bombed, but I'm okay?
It's difficult to say because any sort of spreading of disinformation or anything negative about the UAE or these attacks or anything that might give a clue to Iranian security forces about whether a missile assault has been successful is a violation under these laws. So it's not just photos, it's not just videos, and it's not just posting online. It's private messages with attachments. It's sharing information that's critical or important information considered for the security of the nation. But then we're also seeing that arbitrary enforcement of the law, which is really confusing. When people go online and they see a video of an explosion and it's widespread, it's all over the international media, they think that, of course, it would be okay for them to share the same picture, you know, privately with relatives, with friends, but it's not. They're still getting arrested for photos that have already been in the international media. And that clearly is not a threat to national security. Iran already knows about this. It's nothing to do with security. We have influencers who have posted videos that have had hundreds of thousands of views brought down to the police station and kindly asked to delete the post, and then they've been let go. Whereas the average citizen is doing exactly the same thing, perhaps to a lesser extent as well, because only one person has seen their video, but they're actually still in these overcrowded detention facilities, being denied access to lawyers, communications, and their embassy.
And so there's no understanding of what this differential is. I mean, it seems, like you said, if it's arbitrary, then nobody's going to know exactly what's going on. But my understanding is that the people nearby to an Iranian strike get sent a text message in both Arabic and English just after they get the alarm that goes off, saying photographing or sharing security or critical sites or reposting unreliable information may result in legal action and compromise national security and stability. So they're saying that they have been warned, but you're saying that warned about what?
That's quite new. That wasn't happening in the early days. And most of these arrests, even the arrests of late, even in the past 7 days, are for acts and incidents that happened prior to the widespread warnings that were distributed by authorities and prior to these text message alerts.
But again, people might say, look, these are authoritarian states. If you're living there, then you're living under authoritarian rule. That's the price that you pay for living under authoritarian rule, that there are things you cannot do that you are allowed to do perhaps in your country of origin.
I mean, certainly, but at the same time, we've had the UAE pump hundreds of millions of pounds into marketing a modern and tolerant society into Britain to attract those tourists and investors. Even though the law's there, I think that most British citizens don't realise that it might be enforced arbitrarily. For example, there were very strict laws about sex outside marriage, and yet prostitution was widespread and prevalent across the country. People didn't know you couldn't actually consume alcohol at certain venues because everyone was consuming it. So it's really a contradicting society, and it's deliberately designed that way because they don't want British citizens to know the rules, because they probably wouldn't go to the country if they knew the extent of them.
I mean, that's what's interesting to me. If they're doing this to try and not damage their reputation, they appear to be doing exactly the opposite.
They, I feel, overreacted in the first few days of the Iran strike on the UAE, and they rounded up people they shouldn't have. Everyone from an innocent Filipino maid outside her office to a British citizen sending a message to mum saying, "It's okay, I survived. Here's a picture of the building on fire," and everyone had already seen it. So, I mean, when they arrest people and detain them for the lengthy periods of time that they have, it's really an overreaction. They're oversensitive, they're hypersensitive. People are very worried and concerned about how they might, what they might do next. Now, usually people would be much more public. Families would come out and speak about what's happened to their children in these situations, but no one knows what they're going to do next, and it's frightening.
Yeah, and it could actually make matters worse if they want to keep this on the DL. What does happen next, though, with those who have been arrested and detained? Because they're saying there's about 35 Brits in Dubai with a similar number in Abu Dhabi. There's huge fines attached to this. Even if a fine is what's accepted, it could be prison. Or do you think that they won't go that far?
Well, it's going to depend a lot on, there is, quite an international spotlight on them at the moment. And I think that they perhaps regret some of the arrests that they've made and hope to maybe move on to the next phase where they can promote the way that they're dealing with Iran rather than having the focus on these people that they've detained. So even with fines, under the cybercrime laws, it could be up to around €60,000. But if they're charged under the national security provisions, and our lawyers are telling us that most cases are being upgraded to the national security provisions, they could be looking at up to around $500,000. So, and that's without custodial sentences. With custodial, up to 2 years under the cybercrime or life in prison under the national security provisions. It's also very interesting that people who have committed the same act, let's say sharing a photograph, some of them are being charged under one section of the laws and others under another. And there doesn't seem to be any reason for each one. It's like the luck of the draw and who happened to be on duty at the time. So that's also very frightening when you've got parents coming to me saying, my son's, he's innocent, and now they're saying he's a national security threat. This is ridiculous. And so I think they're really going to have to address this. It is damaging their reputation. The embassies are getting involved. The French have been very active, I know that. And Britain has now, Downing Street's confirmed they're escalating this to the UAE authorities because there are, deep concerns about how much the British government is actually helping people.
Do you think that these regimes, like you said, you think that they overreacted? That if they wanted to just they could just let people go, couldn't they, with a warning now, or has it gone too far?
I've suggested that. I think that the best thing to do, and this is something that they have done in the past, is, they could deport them. I think people would be happier to be deported than kept in the country or prosecuted. Even before prosecution, they can be detained arbitrarily for months. And if they're found innocent, there's no compensation. So I think the best thing to do now is to either drop the charges, especially for those who had no ill intent, and for those who were unaware before the widespread government warnings. This is an unusual situation. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before. And I don't think anyone would judge the authorities for dropping the charges against those types of people and just keeping in custody those who are of a more serious nature. That's the best option for everyone. They could fine people, they could deport them, but is that really necessary even? These are people who are patriotic about the UAE, most of them. Most of them are residents, they love the country and didn't intend any ill harm. They don't want to be banned from returning, and if they're deported or fined, they might not be able to come back. And this just seems very unfair for people who have actually set up their lives there. Lots of them have promoted the country and said positive things about it on social media.
There's also people having their passports taken away from them, I understand, as well. So people have been let out on bail, but their passports have been removed, so they can't go anywhere.
This is a very difficult situation, and a common one is when the authorities decide to release people from police custody but don't give their passports back or put a travel restriction on their passport. This is an issue because it becomes less of an urgency, and people can be stuck in the country even though they want to leave for indefinite periods of time. I have British citizens who are still there on travel bans from civil cases for 5-7 years, and they want to come home right now. They don't want to be in the country with all of these explosions overhead. So the issue is, if they decide to release everyone but put a travel restriction on and just kind of leave the case open, they can be in limbo for years.
Can they not then, if passport has been held by a country, can they not go and apply for a new passport from the embassy?
Unfortunately, the databases will pick them up on leaving the country. They've got iris scans
on the way out.
Exactly. Then they would go back to jail if they tried to leave.
What are you saying to people who are being held at the moment? Are you just saying, look, hang on in there, because we think that this might just melt away at some point?
We're speaking to the families mostly, so we're letting them know, we're doing our best. We're raising cases through the MPs and up the chain to the FCDO, and therefore, hopefully with this increased pressure, we're also liaising with the UAE diplomats as much as possible and letting them know that these are cases that need to be resolved as soon as possible. There's no point in dragging them on. Please address it urgently. I know you're busy with hundreds, if not thousands, of arrests right now, but the obvious ones where there was no ill intent, at least let them go. And so I've been keeping families hopeful that that's going to happen very quickly. And we have seen a number of people who have been released, not British citizens, but other nationalities are being released and processed all the time. So I inform the families whenever I get good news from someone else.
Yeah, I mean, literally any one of us could have sent those messages to our mum, right? I mean, that's the thing. When you say it like that, it really is. Radha, thank you very much indeed. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you for joining me. Radha Stirling there, CEO of Detained in Dubai. Right, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about whether the XL bully ban has actually worked.